Welcome back to the King Closer Reacts. I am the King Closer, RJ Bates III. This is a series where I watch a bunch of videos and see if I agree or disagree. Let's get into the first video.
Real estate wholesaling is so dead if you're doing it the old way by just giving 50% of what the property is worth. You have to learn how to do creative financing and be able to give market value or even a tad bit more. Guys, follow for more.
What the brother? This is when are we going to come down on regulations on who can have a camera and a microphone, right? This is asinine. I don't know who this guy is, and listen, you're probably trying to make your way, man, and I don't want to shit on you too hard, but you put it out there. I mean, this is horrible. What, wholesaling is dead? No, it's not. I just made a video like 8 minutes ago about how we made $45,000 in 13 minutes with like zero overhead. Just boom, snapped in the thin fucking air. It's not dead. And giving people more than market value. Talk to any investor in any realm. They will never tell you that you should invest more than something is worth. That's not investing. That's called spending. Okay? It's dumb. Dumb. Just because you know how to do something doesn't mean that you should, right? This is like when I'm live and a seller says, I want $500,000. I look it up. No, your house is worth $500,000. You should list with a realtor and get $500,000. And they go, well, RJ, why wouldn't you have bought it sub 2? To do what? To lose my fucking money? Do I want to go live in the house? No. You don't just do it. And according to this guy, what I actually should say is, sir, you know what I should do? I should give you $525. What? Where is this a thing? Like, no one has ever come to me and been like, RJ, let me explain to you how I just made an ass ton of money by overspending on a house. It's never happened. Ever. When are those guys just going to come flying out of the woodworks to show me how fucking smart they are? Where they're like, creative finance is the way, wholesale is dead, and overspending on properties is how you make a lot of money. Where do you make the money? You split the rooms up into 27 different rentals? Is that what we're doing nowadays? Is that how we're getting fucking rich? No, I don't understand this. This is horrible. All I hear when I listen to this is you didn't know how to do lead generation. You don't know how to talk to sellers. You don't understand how to identify motivation. You definitely don't know how to comp and underwrite. And you watch some Pace Morby video where he said, I'm buying a property for more than it's worth to write off my taxes on my 10-figure business. Of course he needs to buy properties for more than the worth because he's a fucking multi-millionaire. You are not. You need to buy properties for cheap. Oh, next video.
And it's actually interesting, dude. I'm finding the most responsive people are people that are done getting berated because 90% of wholesalers suck. If I've learned anything in this business, bro, our competition is so pitiful.
There's none. There's none.
Like the easiest business. Like if you're serious, diligent, professional, and confident, you will succeed in this business if you don't quit.
If you don't quit is the most important part of that sentence.
If you don't quit.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you don't quit.
Man, I miss that guy. Where that guy? That guy, he had the little kid. I don't know. I want more videos from him. So, you know, he's talking about how much our competition sucks. I completely agree. I talk about how our competition sucks all the time. I mean, realistically, if you just want to doom scroll on Instagram or TikTok under the hashtag wholesale and real estate, you'll see how bad it is. The advice out there is terrible. Now, he talked about if you're confident, then this business is simple. Let's talk about this because inside of TU, we have our book club. And the book that we're reading right now is The Art of Winning by Bill Belichick. And listen, I'm a huge Patriots fan, so this is a great read for me. I agree with so much of the things that Bill Belichick believes in as a coach, and he translates it over into the business world and all of that. But this morning on my way to the office, he was talking about confidence. And he talked about how you can't really teach someone how to have confidence. You can't really acquire confidence. Confidence comes from the reps. It comes from doing things and succeeding at it. And then that's where the confidence comes from. So what you're hearing from these two gentlemen is hey, if you do wholesaling, if you call sellers and dispo and everything with confidence, you just don't quit. It was funny. That was exactly what he said right after. You just don't quit. Well, the just don't quit is where you will get that confidence. Because over the course of time, you'll get better at talking to sellers. You'll get better at comping and underwriting. I tell everybody when they get their first property under contract, there's a solid chance that this is going to end in a termination. And it's not because you did anything wrong. It's just because you haven't developed those skill sets yet on how to comp and underwrite, how to dispo, how to handle title issues. But that confidence will build over the course of time if you just don't quit.
And then when I was, searching in the creative real estate Facebook group for cash buyers in Atlanta, I messaged a few people. One of them responded, and he was actually another wholesaler, and he was going to find an end buyer, which he did. But he offered to fund the earnest money deposit because of such a short timeline. So ultimately what ended up happening was I didn't fund the earnest money deposit, but I still JV'd on the deal because I brought the buyer, and that's how I got paid out. And he funded the earnest money deposit. That's wholesaler B in this case.
Right.
He found the actual end buyer, and we closed the deal.
I don't know what I just heard. I think maybe if maybe he misspoke and we just changed one word, it all makes complete sense. So we're just going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He brought the seller. He brought the contract. That's what I'm going to assume he did. I hope. Otherwise, we just had a testimonial about the greatest daisy chain of all time. All right. Listen, posting inside of Facebook groups, specifically public Facebook groups, is a toxic wasteland of how you can lose deals. Now, in this scenario, it all worked out, and the wholesaler B, in how he described it, brought the end buyer. Now, that's great because wholesaler B was honest about his role in the transaction and that he was a wholesaler. Kudos to you, wholesaler B. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people in our industry that would see that, find the information, and then try to steal the deal, snake you out of the deal, go directly to your seller, or even wait on it to get terminated and then go pick it up and then dispo it to their end buyer so they can keep 100% of the money. This is why I believe in being a part of a tight-knit community. Sounds like he's somewhat in the sub 2 realm. Like if you're posting that inside of sub 2, hopefully that wouldn't happen. If you're posting that inside of Titanium University's group, that wouldn't happen. And if it does, then I bring down the fury of my Vikinghood on you. But listen, when you are hoping and praying that you're going to find an end buyer in a Facebook group, ultimately as a business owner in the wholesaling world, I have to ask you, why are you so cheap? Why not go invest into something like Investor Base or Investor Lift? Now, Investor Lift has it where you can pay per deal, right? You're not having to pay this big monthly fee. You can just literally go in and say, I have a deal. I trust that I can move this deal. And then, boom, I pay $400, $300. I get 50 leads of buyers. Boom. That's how you find your end buyer. And then the other thing, earnest money deposit. He talks about he didn't get his earnest money deposited until he found wholesaler B. And then this makes me question about the timelines and the contracts because he was already posting it. Man, there's just a lot of things that go on in this industry that make me scratch my head and make me wonder, why are we teaching people to do things so difficult? Like, it doesn't have to be this way. And honestly, if you're in a position where you don't have operating capital at all, where you can't even fund your own earnest money deposit, you can't go get a $200 a month software, then you really need to start questioning whether or not you should be an entrepreneur. Maybe you should go under someone's wing that can fund their business.
So if the first falls on a Thursday, rent is due on Wednesday. The last business day before the first of the month is something that is an absolute non-negotiable. Well, you say, well, what happens if first is on a Sunday? Okay, well then it's due the Friday before. Why? Last business day before the first of the month. Effectively, what I'm doing is training my tenants to pay their rent early. Why do I want for them to pay their rent early? Couple of reasons. I want to be able to service whatever maintenance repair issue that they have. I also want to be able to distribute back to my investors a full distribution and not have to be hoping that money comes in order to make this distribution, and now I'm floating some stuff. Hey, thanks for watching. I've got a free gift.
All right. I love this in theory. However, this gentleman is a professional landlord, so he knows. I could tell tenant A over here at 123 Main Street that your rent is due on this, but there has to be some sort of grace period. Is it, if he doesn't pay on the Friday before the first, is it immediately a late fee the next day? Probably not. Normally you give them somewhere between 3 to 5 business days or 3 to 5 days. I would love to see the actual percent of payments made on that random day before the first of the month. Because when weekends get involved there and you're talking about business days, realistically, what's going to happen? The tenant's going to pay you when they have the money. So if that's falling on, a Thursday and they get paid on Friday, you're probably getting your money on Friday. I mean, you can mandate whatever you want, but they're going to look at you and be like, brother, you're getting your money when I have it, right? That's part of being a landlord. You just got to deal with it. So I love how he's talking about, I want to do the maintenance. I want to get full distributions to my investors. Listen, let's be real. Your distributions to your investors aren't coming from this month's rent. They're coming from all the previous month's rent and the money that you got sitting in your bank account. You're not getting them rent on some special day. This feels a little bit clickbaity and maybe a little bit of showmanship to get people to sign up for his program. That's my take on that.
You know what I hate most about wholesalers? Everybody think they're good at sales. It's a tie to their masculinity. If I go and ask you like, hey, are you good at sales? Oh, I'm the best guy. I can sell anything. Kind of like if you walk up the street and ask a guy if he can fight, and he'll say, dude, yeah, I can fight, but he never been in a fight. Most of these guys say, I'm really good at sales. Then you listen to their calls, you're not as good as you thought. So then we started to hire on coaches and help them like depict their whole sales process. And we basically came up with a framework, created our own script. If you follow this script, you'll get the most success.
Isn't he boys with Aaron Klein? Maybe that's who he's talking about. I don't know. I've never talked to him before. You know what I think is funny? Is every time when I hear stuff like that, it's like it's tied to their masculinity. I'm going to go talk to Cassie and ask her if her thinking that she's good at closing deals because she's closed hundreds of deals is tied to her masculinity. Or are we just ignoring the fact that there's thousands of women in our industry? And also, no one has ever come up to me and been like, hey, RJ, are you good at sales? Like, no one's actually asked me that. That's a weird thing. Again, it just feels like clickbait. All wholesalers think they're good at sales. Here's the thing. If you think you're good at sales because you could call a seller who needs to desperately sell their house and they're willing to sell it for 40% of what it could be worth, that doesn't make you good at sales. No matter what script you have, you can have Courtney's fancy little script. You can have 28-page scripts. You can have a 2-page script. It doesn't matter. You're not doing sales. You're buying. Why doesn't anybody ever talk about how they're great at sales during dispositions? Why? Because it doesn't sell his leads. That's why. He's trying to sell you his leads. Use my script, buy my leads. You'll be great. It's always about that. Sales is in the disposition side. A great salesman can establish a relationship with an end buyer and go back to them over and over and over again because they're providing a great product. You know what Danny Herman told me yesterday? He said, hey man, we've got this buyer that now when I send him a deal, he says, send me the assignment. He doesn't even have enough time to comp and underwrite it and run the numbers. You know why? Because he trusts us. That's becoming a great salesman, not any fancy words that you say, and it's definitely not reading a fucking PDF that got emailed to you. That doesn't make you a great salesman. That just makes you a halfway decent 5th grade reader. All right, guys, that's our episode of The King Closer Reacts. Got a little spicy there today. Maybe it's because the internet's just getting dumber or I'm getting smarter. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Show me some love. See you guys tomorrow.